another thing, Lepore, that we have to get to here, and speaking of Leafs Twitter, I've seen a lot of people really mad with the play of Frederik Andersen because we've seen this in the past, especially in the playoffs where he hasn't been his best. We've seen him get off to slow starts before. He allowed 9 goals in his first 2 games, Lepore. And you mentioned it earlier in the show. He's in a contract year, the final year of a 5-year, $25 million deal. What's going on here, Lepore? Do the Leafs have the luxury of waiting for this guy to find his game when you have Jack Campbell waiting in the wings, coming off a win against the Senators? What would you do if you're the Leafs?
You mentioned Leafs Twitter. So, someone threw out a stat. I think it was last 2 seasons, 5-on-5. And Anderson's near the bottom of the league, man. Like he was like an 8-9 something among starting goalies 5-on-5, which is not good. Like just to show that this isn't something that's come into our brains in the first 3 games this season. It's far too early to give up on Andersen, obviously, after 3 games, especially, and everyone forgets, like everyone, Jack Campbell's been solid and he's got a great personality. He's a likable guy. And we just are happy he's there because we don't have to deal with Hutchinson anymore. So it's, oh man, like we have this big man crush on Jack Campbell, but like, what has he really shown that he can carry the load? So it's that whole thing of like, well, the alternative may not necessarily be better. So on that end, I'll say that, we'll let Andersen ride this out. But the way I look at it is kind of 50-50 because again, I want this team to run like a corporation, and the Toronto Maple Leafs don't owe anything to anybody at this point. Nobody from top to bottom in this lineup has earned any right to have been given leeway in that regard. So, and especially the goalie. So you show me again, like if he continues to play like this, like Campbell's going to get more starts, and he's going to get them anyway, because there's going to be a lot of back-to-backs, a lot of busy weeks. So Campbell's going to get opportunities to show his worth. And if he's out playing Andersen, it's a short season. We can't waste any time. And again, like it's a contract year. And I think we can all safely say that Andersen's not going to be back next year. So what do we have to lose? And we're not going to trade him. So that's it. Like to me, it's in the air. I'd say it's a 50-50. Like Campbell's going to get his shots, and it's up to Andersen to show us that he is rightfully the starting goalie.
I love the comment you made about this team being run like a corporation, how it should be run like a corporation, because, it goes back to the conversation we've had with Thornton and the top power play unit and Wayne Simmons. No one has earned any of that.
No.
At this point, this team needs to play its best players. This team, with the exception of Austin Matthews and maybe Morgan Riley, no one on this team deserves anything, really. And listen, and that's not saying I'm not a fan of John Tavares and William Nylander. I think they're fantastic, okay? But going back to this Freddie Andersen conversation, I'm sorry, but if he's not playing well, and listen, last year he had the worst year of his career.
He's bad.
He had a .909 save percentage. He looked shaky all season. He was terribly inconsistent. Now, I will give him this. In that Blue Jackets series, yes, he gave up, a couple soft goals that were, pretty big goals in the grand scheme of things in that series. But if you look at his overall numbers, they were really good in that Columbus series.
Yeah, but Bruno, how much does that matter in the short series? And I'll point to that because people will point to his numbers. And that was similar to like those Bruins series in the way that people would say, oh, like his numbers are okay. But if you let in one bad goal, I don't care.
Yeah.
So, hey, sorry to cut you off there.
No. I mean, you make a good point. Like at the end of the day, and even Andersen said this himself. He's like, there's such a fine line. He said this, I think, after the 5-3 loss of the Sens, where he's like, there's such a fine line from having a good game as a goalie and a bad game. And it's so true. And listen, I don't care what team is playing in front of you. You can't be allowing 9 goals in 2 games. Yeah, that's just unacceptable. He needs to be better. Being in a contract year, you would hope he's going to be better. Now, here's what I will say about Frederik Andersen. At his best, he's really good. And there's been stretches where Andersen, more or less has carried this Leafs team over the last 4 years.
But it seems like it's been a while. Like for me, it's weird. I almost feel like Andersen was better when our defense was worse. Like the Ron Hainsey days were the days when it seemed like Andersen was the man. But then like we made slow progressions forward defensively and he's gotten worse. Like, have you seen that?
I think it's more maybe of a recency bias thing, just looking at what he did last season. Because again,
Okay.
last season he was bad. And
Yeah.
and I think maybe it has something to do with the style they're playing now under Keefe. How, one thing I've noticed with Sheldon Keefe is that he loves when the defensemen, go into the play and contribute offensively and maybe take some chances and be a little bit more aggressive. And that's going to hurt your goaltending, right? Because you're going to give up odd man rushes. You're
Right.
going to give up, even the Leafs, I mean, I'm sure you've noticed the same thing. They still give up chances shorthanded. That's
Yeah.
something that this team has done over the last couple of years,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, I mean, there's something going on with Freddie Andersen, and I don't know if it's the style of play in front of him since Sheldon Keefe took over, but he just doesn't look sharp.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you said, being in a shortened season and with the back-to-backs, we know that Campbell is going to get more starts just naturally. I mean, it's going to happen across the National Hockey League where you better have a competent number 2 goalie in a season like this. And guess what, Lepore? If Campbell starts stringing together some wins and he's clearly the more competent goalie and he gets in a groove, then I think the Leafs are going to have no choice in a season like this but to ride the hot hand. I mean, it's just as simple as that.
It's an opportunity. They can't waste this opportunity.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's like with 56 games and with the expectations on this team, there's no screwing around. Just play your best players, play your best goaltender, and go and win some damn games.